ended up where they are in terms of in front of my house. But but one seems to have died, and I'm thinking, and this is what my life is like. I'm always looking at things around me and thinking, how does this relate to the work that I'm doing? And I know that might seem sad, but I'm kind of engulfed by this, as many people are, the passion that goes behind it. And then you start looking at, okay, if it wasn't any dramatic difference in terms of treatment between the two, then it's got to be small differences that have led to the outcome of these two plants. One very sad looking plant, dead, and the other one very much healthy. And it wasn't the fact that I put different soil in. It wasn't the fact that one pot was smaller or bigger. It wasn't the fact that they're not both exposed to sunlight, and they both came from the same center. It must have been small things that I did over time. So maybe a little bit less watering. Maybe the sun doesn't catch it as much further along the wall there. Maybe the way that I did the soil and I put the drainage in, one slightly less than the other. Then that kind of gives me the narrative that actually the small differences can have the same impact as the large things that we are exposed to on a daily basis in the systems we work in. So this session isn't to do with this image that you've got now, which is outright discrimination in terms of things that were protected by law, things that are within the Equalities Act 2010, the various practices that are in place to make sure that discrimination doesn't happen in the workplace. So this session isn't to do with that. This session is more to do with why was the person that was picked the best person to be picked, and what led up to that point. So it's that journey, the journey of why, when something happens in your office and somebody gets that glamour project, and you start looking at why they got that glamour project in your office, which is going to showcase their talents even more, and you look at, oh, they were involved in all these other things as well. Their name came up in all these conversations. This person, yeah, absolutely deserved to get that project. But we've got to go rewind. We've got to rewind and go back and think, were there things that led up to that person being the best person for that role, which now you can justify, but the process that led up to that may not have been as fair. So there's lots of different things that you would have heard. Unconscious bias, people being treated slightly different and all the rest of it. There's things that you can put your finger on in terms of legislation, the various acts and the laws that we have in place. And there are things that happen on a daily basis that you can't always put your finger on. Or if you do, you would probably feel quite petty raising them. Same thing to do with microaggressions. So when we start looking at, I'm going to do a little bit of a backdrop. So this is McGregor Smith, Baroness McGregor Smith, 2017. She produced a report, and there's lots of things. And in the opening statement there, we should live in a country where every person, regardless of their ethnicity or background, is able to fulfil their potential at work. As an employer, as an employee, as anybody that's a stakeholder, can we put our hands on our heart and say that we are equitable, we are delivering on this, that no matter who is in front of us, that they should have, we actually give them that opportunity, that equal opportunity to fulfill their potential at work. Now, this also led to a business case in terms of people not being able to fulfill their potential. It actually has a pound note value to that. And if you want to look at that, those facts and those details, something like 24 billion pounds a year that we're actually losing through not utilizing the potential in our workforce. So there is a business case, and I'm not going to go too much, but all the highlight comments there in terms of and they're coming up in the screen. I'm not going to read them to you, you can read them. So this is all to do with now people's perception of their workplace and where they fit in. And I talked about this last time about in terms of belonging. Do we have a tight culture where everybody feels belong and they're all driven for that same moral outcome for all the people that we work with? you know, there is discrimination at every single stage, and this is a report based on multiple FTSE 100 companies and their employees and their management, and these are the comments that came out of the report. And this is probably the one that we probably were faced up until about 6 months ago, when the talk and the discussions, people were saying, well, actually, yeah, we've talked a lot. There's a lot of reports out there, but talk is now not going to be enough. We actually do need to start acting on some of the things that are out there that we know are not right. So again, lots of different things. Here we go. There's a look at people that feel that they've been overlooked for promotion by ethnic minority. You can see there, and these are perceptions. There are no real metrics for this, which is why they're kind of ignored, because we can't count them, we can't measure them in any quantifiable way. All we can do is ask people how they feel. And I don't know what the mix of people that we've got on the session today, but in terms of whether we've ever had a feeling where we've been overlooked, and whether we actually equate it to who we actually are, is a different question. But when it's asked as a question to all employees, these are the perceptions that came out. And you can see that the Pakistani, Indian, and other ethnic groups in there as well featured quite high in terms of people that felt that they were overlooked. And then you've got things like which may have impacted on their progression. And the one that stands out, which is why I am so passionate about networks. And when Justin contacted me all those months and months and months ago, and I'm all about making connections with the right people. One, I learn a hell of a lot, but secondly, it's a collective voice that normally helps. And this is going to touch on what I'm going to talk about towards the end, but you can see very, very strongly that people want to connect with the right people. And when they feel that they can't connect with the right people, and now that might be somebody that can't connect with a director, or somebody who's a team leader, or a department head, whatever that might be, whatever your organization is, there are people that are that have open door policies and people that don't. And if the people that don't have open door policies in your organization are the ones that make strategic decisions, then you're going to think, what impact does that have on you and your progression, and how much you're showcased? And again, we've got the discrimination one, which comes in second. And again, that's just something that is more of a system issue, because there are things in place. It's just a case of we need to hold people to account and say this is actually illegal. As I said, I'm not talking about that because there are mechanisms for that, and we need to utilize those. We can have a look here. Evidence suggests that BME
There you go.
individuals have difficulty in accessing jobs that match their skills. So this is that whole thing about, you might have seen this image on, and I should have got it up, where you've got a whole load of different animals and they're told to climb a tree, and you've got everything from a fish to an elephant. And it's not always about whether you can climb that particular tree. There are other skills and other talents that are not getting showcased because of the narrow remit of what we think should be valued within our workplace. Unconscious bias, obviously, there plays a huge part in people not getting the opportunities afforded to it. Discrimination, again, lack of social professional networks, and that networking, that collaborative voice that you have out there, I can't tell you enough how powerful that is. And the person that really showcased that for me was Bernadette Thompson, who does the G6, G7 race to the top. She's passionate about networks, and that's where I thought, okay, this is something that we need to look at. Can you provide more detail on ethnicity impacted regarding opportunities to progress? You can see, again, inability to progress senior levels. There's a glass ceiling, there's a perception. Again, these are perception-based things. And we've got lots of different reports, lots of different to do with, and there was an interesting one, which I found, which is to do with government. What is the role of government in supporting progression of BME employees in the workplace? And the one that came out there is promote training and opportunities. And then we've got work alongside, provide incentives for businesses to promote diversity. So again, this is the top-down approach, and this is what people are asking for, is that when you're looking outside your remit as civil servants, in terms of the impacts that the government in the broader sense can have on the general workforce, unless it's something that's driven from the top, i.e. the government, and the various arms of the government, the chances are there isn't going to be a consistent approach to how we utilize the skills of our workforce. So again, one that stands out there, work alongside, incentivizing, so that they ask people in different roles within government in terms of what they perceive. So going back to my original poor attempt at gardening, when you factor all those perceptions in and how you feel on a daily basis, going into work feeling that you're not being valued, that's akin to getting slightly less sunlight every day, slightly less better drainage when you're being watered, slightly less water given to you. On the surface, it looks identical in terms of their starting point, but actually over time, those small micro neglects that you face on a professional level can have an impact on you. And I've seen colleagues that have suffered immense pain over their careers because they feel that they have to work, and this is something that I know will resonate. You will have to work twice as hard to be seen as much, and that's something that has been from my father's generation all the way through, as a first generation immigrant that my father was, that son, you're going to have to work that much harder, you're going to have to be that much more qualified, you're going to have to work that many more hours just so that you can do the same things. And that was something that was bred into me growing up, and I know there'll be colleagues nodding their heads. They would have been told that you need to work that much harder. And the reason why you need to work that much harder, my next image, I know this isn't a UK image, if somebody's looking at the lettering on the wall, but I don't think it really matters, is that are you being noticed as much? Because if you are being noticed as much and you're working twice as hard, why would you not have more opportunity? Now, as I said, this isn't about discrimination, open discrimination. This is about those conversations that happen around, this is a boardroom, it could happen at your department level. What sort of conversations are you having? Who are you talking about? And what are you saying about these people? Have you forgotten to mention somebody who's done some really good work in your team? Or have you not showcased your manager and the work that they do to support you? So this isn't about one tier of people failing the system. This is about all of us. And things don't change unless everybody's actually within that. So blowing your trumpet, how comfortable do you feel about saying what good work that you do and sharing that with your colleagues, telling your managers, this is the work that I've done and this is the impact that it's had on our team, on our outcomes? As a team leader or as a department head or as a senior leader within your organization, who have you showcased in the last day, week, month, year? And that's the sort of questions that I want you to think about in terms of who have you showcased in the last day, week, month, or year? Which one of your colleagues, which one of your managers, which one of your organizations, which one of your contacts, stakeholders that you've got, various ones across the civil service? Have you had a good interaction and have you told people about that? Have you worked with someone that's inspired you and you've shared that? Or have you just thought, no, I feel inspired, and you haven't shared that? Your team, who have they showcased in the last day, week, month, and year? Which talents, which work, which projects have you showcased? Which people have been elevated? And then when you start thinking about your senior leaders, who have they showcased in the last day, week, month, or year? And the reason why I'm asking that question is that what does this say about you, your team, and the leaders that we work with, and who is valued? And if you look at it just from an evidential point of view, I know that some of the organizations that I've worked in and worked for, if I just looked at the names and the faces of people that they've showcased out of the teams that they actually have, it's quite a blunt image. It's you really don't need to see much more than that. And if that's what people see, that's what people will value, and that's what people aspire to. So those discussions that you're having at all levels, and whether it's with a colleague, whether it's within your teams, you really need to be intentional about showcasing all the talent that you have. Ignoring talent is as bad as discrimination. And you do need to start putting names to work. And I found this it's only a few days ago, and I thought this is really sort of like embodies what I'm thinking about. Be the reason someone feels welcomed, seen, heard, valued, loved, and supported. Now, loved, obviously, in a professional sense, but in terms of, I think it kind of encapsulates what I'm trying to aim at to do with these micro neglects that we have. Micro neglects, or any type of neglect, professional neglect within somebody's development, you can't oversee that wouldn't exist if everybody showcased everybody else's talents and the wealth of skills that we have out there and the work that they do. So, question to you. What will you do differently? What will you do differently today, tomorrow, next week, next month? Whatever position that you're in. Who will you talk about? Which work will you showcase? Will you have a balanced view? Will you give somebody else that extra boost, knowing that that's what they need? And if you don't do that, what is going to be the impact of that? I know from my plants, at least one of them, it had a huge impact. That's me. And that's all where you can contact me. You can contact me via Justin as well. And just say that, you know, this isn't me working necessarily on behalf of an organization. I do work for a teaching school alliance at the moment, and I am also a trustee at the BAMED network, which is the National Educational BAME organization, recently just become a charitable organization as well. And I do lots of work with other organizations. This is something that I do because it's a passion of mine, and it's something that I feel that we need to talk about. This is me. Thank you. And I'm hoping, because I can't see a screen, that there may be some questions there. Justin, I hope that's okay.
Thanks, Arv. Yes, it is. Now, give me one moment. I will come back on the screen, everyone. So, we've just heard really interesting slides talk from Arv. And I think for me personally, before I hand over to you, the audience, I think one of the things that I've always struggled with, and I think a couple of other people have put this also as well in the chat box, is actually how do you become your own cheerleader? I think someone mentioned in there that they're actually an introvert. Now, I've always said to people that I really prefer to be in the background. I really don't like being in the front and saying, hey, look at me. But as I was saying, I understand why some people move up the ladder, if this is partly a conversation around progression, a little bit quicker than others, because they're always the first one who's going, this is what I did, this is what I did, that kind of way. And I think for me personally, what I've always preferred to do is be a cheerleader for other people. So I feel a lot more comfortable in that position. So I'll probably ask you a question about that, around that, if that's okay, and then I'll hand over to the audience. So what happens, say, for example, if you are someone who is a bit of an introvert or someone who doesn't actually like the spotlight, but still wants to be seen alongside those people who feel comfortable in doing those things?
Yeah, I mean, from my point of view, let me just turn my camera on. Can I turn my camera on?
So yeah, turn on your camera, sir.
Oh, there we go. There we go. Yeah, got it.
Excellent.
when I say blow your own trumpet, especially if no one else is blowing it for you, it's part of this is that it's part of your self-development. Our comfort zones are important.
Yeah.
We need our comfort zones. They keep us sane. But if you think about the scenario to do with working from home, for example, and especially during the first lockdown, I know that I felt 100% safe at home. I felt less safe when I went outside. But I had to go outside because I couldn't maintain my safe zone, my comfort zone, without going outside. And sometimes you do need to do that and make your comfort zone bigger. So that isn't something that happens overnight. And one of the things, because I'm pretty much like you, Justin, in terms of I like to showcase other people's talent. I see that as my mission, because I feel that where voices aren't heard, I will help showcase those voices. Hence the programs that I run. But I also found that unless the people that I actually want to change their minds off, unless they hear from me and the things that I can achieve, my credibility doesn't have the same standing. So for me to help the people that I help, I've got to be more credible, which means I have got to come out of my comfort zone to do that.
I get it. So you're putting pressure on me now, but
you're doing it, Justin. You're doing it. You do it on a daily basis. But in terms of, there are so many different ways you can you can get your voice heard. You have safe zones like this, which is the forum. If somebody contacted you from anybody from your race forum, I know that you would bend over backwards to support and help them and showcase their talent. You don't have to do it yourself, but you can initiate it. If you don't tell anybody about your successes, nobody can help you.
Yeah.
And if your manager isn't recognizing it, then it's literally going to stay in that silo. Yeah. So find an ally, and I would say find an ally outside your immediate department. I do that. The program that I ran over the lockdown, the CPD chat, I basically networked with over 16,000 people over the course of 3 months, and I had every other school talking about what I was doing. When there were certain people that weren't talking about it from inside my organization.
Okay, so that's a really good point. I'm going to try and
pressure to bear from outside.
Yeah, I'll definitely try and take that on board, and I'll definitely try and make sure that I'm also as well continuing, as you're saying, to help support anyone who reaches out to CIFREC. So I see a couple of hands go up, so I'm going to go out now to our audience, if that's okay.
Yep.
And I think the first person I saw with their hand up was Joanna. I could be wrong. Yes, Joanna's the first one with their hand up.
Hi, I'm Joanna David. Thank you very much, Arv. That's an amazing story and really important to hear. I just think that there's another tiny twist to it. As a BAME person, I wonder whether we have so many hoops to jump through that you just sometimes just get fed up. And I wonder whether there is a whole flip side to this, where managers need to be really trained properly to see the potential in their teams. It's almost like shaming the person who we discussed this the other day at work about encouraging BAME people to talk out loud. And I was like, why don't you just encourage managers to be better at recognizing people's potentials?
Exactly.
Yeah, so just don't put the blame on the person who's being wronged here.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, everybody's got different personalities that you bring to the table, and valuing them for that personality is really important. And you don't want someone who's an introvert to be the one who is left behind because he's not an extrovert. Yeah. So just wondering if that spins.
No, absolutely. And I think the two aspects of that. First of all, I went through, when I first started doing this work, I went through 3 months of immense fatigue. In terms of, there was so much that I was seeing, and I was like thinking, I don't know, one, where to start. Secondly, why should it be me? Yeah,
absolutely.
And then you start thinking, it's that whole, you know the story about the boy on the seaside, and there's thousands of starfish that have been and he's throwing one back at a time. And somebody asked him, "Why are you throwing one back? And there's thousands here." He said, "Well, I've helped that one. I've helped that one. I've helped that one." And you've got to start somewhere. You've got to start somewhere, and you do it in your own way. And you're absolutely right. We are all, apparently we're all different, and apparently we are all actually one race. But that's another conversation. But we are all different, and I think we have our own ways of doing things, and one isn't less than the other. But my point on this is that all those off-the-cuff conversations that happen in boardrooms and teams and various things where names are just inadvertently not mentioned.
Sure.
Whether it's with intent or not, and if that happens over a sustained period of time, certain names become more elevated than others, and they end up getting the glamour projects, and then their talents are even more showcased, and the other people just don't get a look in. So it's all to do with that side of it. But the thing about the management side of it is you're absolutely right, is the fact that there's two types of managers that when they fall into this category. I think one is the inexperienced. So somebody has to start somewhere. And when you're learning how to drive, every time you change the gear, you steer the car towards the curb, because and after a while you start picking it up. So development of managers is absolutely crucial. I know there's some fabulous leadership programs within the House of Commons, for example, where they're also now bringing on board coaching as well. And they're trying to pull from a wide pool of people to be coaches to get people to think in different ways. So that, so there are things that can happen on that side. But then there's a lazy manager as well. Not lazy in terms of doesn't work hard, but lazy thinking. You literally are transactional and you look at outcomes, and that's it. You don't look at, was that the best outcome that I could have achieved with my team? They just look at, oh, that's ticked off, done. And they're not thinking, actually, with the wealth of talent that I've got in my team, could I have done better?
I heard something quite interesting. Sorry, I don't want to take up too much time, but the difference between mentorship and sponsorship.
Yeah.
So mentoring was just guiding somebody, but sponsorship is physically open. Well, not physically, not literally, opening doors for people.
It's somebody who's
mentioning names in places.
Absolutely, and sponsorship is something that I've really been working with within the education field, trying to get people to recognise certain people and elevate them, to make sure that they at least have the opportunities to progress. So when things come up, they say, "Oh, this person would be good. This person would be good." Those names, and that's the thing about the micro-neglect side of things. When those names aren't mentioned on a regular basis, you won't even know about it. You don't know that your name's not being mentioned or being mentioned. you know, but it has an impact on you because you're seeing other people then start climbing and you don't climb. So sponsorship is powerful, and then hand in hand with that is allyship. Finding people, and you don't have to be a leadership aspiring to leadership to find an ally. We can all have allies that align with our views, that we can talk to, that can then help us elevate the work that we do. So allyship and sponsorship, I think, are absolutely crucial. You're spot on that.
Thank you. That's really helpful. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joanna, for your question. So I know that there's a number of different conversations going on in the chat box, and I will come back to you on that. But I'm going to go to the people who raised their hands up first as I ask. So if anyone does have questions, please ensure you raise your hand. Okay, the next person I'm going to call up once this comes up is Jasmine.
Yeah, hi, hello.
Jasmine.
I'm really enjoying the presentation, so thank you very much for this. And when I heard you say call each other brother, that really made me feel a kind of sense of relaxation and a recognition that culture and identifying with people that you have something in common with is such is important, but also perhaps is one reason why there are also barriers. And you may have seen or you may have heard of the BBC drama "I May Destroy You," which was written and directed by Michaela Cole. It's the most remarkable thing piece of art, because she had absolute freedom to create something. So sometimes when we talk about the benefits of diversity, I think there's a bit of embarrassment around what is actually to be achieved. Amazing things are to be achieved. I know that most people don't mean to exclude. My partner's father was 22 years old and rose up through the ranks to become assistant perm sec at a time when the hand on the shoulder was very much the way you progressed. And in some ways, I think there's a bit of a conflict, isn't there, between a hand on the shoulder approach, which is very much discouraged, and a if you go through the system, you will progress. And I don't think that I don't think either is right. The plant analogy that I enjoyed of your very neat and tidy doorstep, I'm envious. I just wonder, it's more about that dying plant not being watered, isn't it? And the impact of that on somebody's confidence and actually, it's an exponential thing. Once people believe in you, you thrive. I just wondered if there was a bit of a conflict in the messaging about needing more discretion in the system or less discretion in the system. What your thoughts are on that?
I mean, first of all, if that plant had just not been watered, that would be something that's covered by law. So you're talking about discrimination, open discrimination against one rather than another. So I think that there are things in place that we can invoke to actually deal with those situations, but it's actually the slightly less watering over time which may not be noticeable. So that was a key difference that I was trying to say, because essentially I felt that I'd done the same thing for both. Now, regarding this thing about the hand on the shoulder, and that's come up quite a lot, I've got to admit, over the last few months, and we've gone through cycles of all of this. My last one was about equality versus equity. If you fundamentally don't believe that an organization should be equitable towards their employees, then I'm never going to win. No one's ever going to win this argument. If we always think that we've had the same starting point and certain people need more support than others, if you don't agree, not you personally, but if we don't agree with that as an organization or as a society, then literally what we've got now is okay, and we have to live with that, and we have to be comfortable with that. But if we're not comfortable with that, then we have to accept the fact that people have different journeys and they need different levels of support. And some people do need to have that additional support, whether it's sponsorship, whether it's using allies effectively, whether it's using the power of the network. All those things then start becoming effective. And when I'm talking about equitable, so if I relate it back to my plant, I'm sorry about my plant allergy. When I noticed that my plant was starting to die, I started to water it more. My other plant, if it could talk, wouldn't necessarily be saying, why is that one getting more water than me? You'd be looking, well, actually, that one needs more water. That one needs to be resoiled. That needs to be placed into the sunlight a little bit more because it's not flourishing. Because when you were employed to do the job, somebody saw something in you that they thought, I want you part of my organization. Now, once you've got that point there, why would you then not do everything possible to make sure that that person thrives in your organization? And if you see that person not thriving, then you have to think, as an organization, do you have a duty to make sure that that person is given every support that is realistically possible for them to thrive before you say, I need a new plant? So this is about equity versus equality. Equality has its place as a foundation, but equity has to exist because we have got various proportions of our society that have had a level of discrimination that has impacted their starting point. And we just got to decide as a society whether we want those people to be more productive or not. That would be my answer to it.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know
Sorry.
if that made sense.
Jazz, can you go on mute, please? Thank you.
Does that make sense, Justin?
Made sense to me. I just wanted to double check if it made sense with Jasmine, hopefully.
Yes.
Okay, so we've got 15 more minutes. I still see a number of hands, so I'm still going to try and work through them. And I'm also as well just trying to get a bit of a synopsis of what's going on in the chat box. So there's a couple of things. There was one question that really stood out to me, which is around how some people found allies. And I suppose for me, where I struggle a little bit is that because I'm involved in two different networks and I work with networks across the piece, I always find that, and this is why I'm really glad that you shouted out networks, I always find that a starting point is the network. So I'm not sure how many people are hopefully either members of their own home department or partner organization or agencies network. I don't know if some of these places actually even have networks, but I will put this out there, and this, please take this as is, because this is not us trying to steal or recruit other people. But if you feel that you're not getting support or you want to get support, then please get in contact with us at the Civil Service Race Forum. We've just started up a mentorship program. We're always available to help answer random requests, but also as well, we put on these events, as I said at the beginning, to help you just start thinking about what you want in the civil service and maybe what the barriers are that are stopping you from getting what you want. Now, before I go to the next person who's got a question, I would also as well like to point out it is all well and good asking for other people to help be your cheerleaders, because I agree with that. I've already said that. I'm more than happy to be someone's cheerleader. But if you won't cheerlead for yourself, are you cheerleading for other people? And when I mean that, I'm talking about across the piece. So we all know that, BAME staff are disproportionate within the civil service, within outside the civil service. Also as well, we have our disabled colleagues who are, if not even more so, we have our colleagues who are in the low socioeconomic, it's sort of like cadre of people. Sometimes they're always not getting the same opportunity. So when you say I am not getting opportunities, think they're not getting opportunities as well. And the only way we can get opportunities if we have that collective mindset. So I just wanted to quickly put that out there for you. Okay, so I'm going up to Billy Savage. That is the name. Billy, if that's okay, please ask your question.
Thank you so much for allowing me to speak. Wonderful presentation. Thank you for arranging this. I work for immigration, and I just wanted to say, I agree with what has been presented, but what you have is, you have managers that feel threatened by you. I was told exactly what you said. Reach out, showcase your skill, do other things. I've done countless of projects. In the last 3 months, I've had 4 recognition awards from outside my unit. I've got vouchers showcasing the work I've done as projects. But I'm struggling to get my grade 7 because, yes, I have my manager, but I just feel some people feel threatened by your achievement, and they don't want to showcase you. They don't want to promote you. How do you deal with that? I'm not even going to use the word laziness. I just feel some people in my unit are threatened by my achievement, and because of that, my achievement is never recognized or pushed forward as recognition. It's all the people outside the business that actually recognize what I do. I'm due for an award tomorrow, which I've been told, and that's because I'm determined to showcase that I am more than capable. I don't mind working twice or 10 times as hard. So the question is, just to wrap up, how do you deal with people that refuse or are threatened by your achievement?
I mean, great question, and congratulations to you as well for all the work that you're obviously doing fantastically well. First of all, you can't change everybody. That's the first thing. You can't change everybody into being somebody who's going to value all their employees or their team. That's the first thing. That's probably not going to happen. The other thing, a really good friend of mine, Penny Raybigger, who works for Lifter, and also she's one of the founders for Baymed. She said she did a session for me, and she talked about shelf life. We all have a shelf life. Sometimes it's determined by our employer, and sometimes it can be determined by us. And it gets to a point where if you feel that you now have outgrown where you are, because essentially that's what you're saying is that you're not being recognized, somebody feels threatened, or somebody feels that no employee, no one in their team should be bigger than the team. And I've also come across that as well. Sometimes you just have to think, you know what, I've done the work that I need to do here, and now it's time for me to see where else I can continue my journey. And that might sound really harsh because you've invested a lot of time within obviously the team that you work within, but we do have a shelf life. You know, we have a shelf life where you do grow beyond the walls that you started off in, and maybe it's time to sort of like look at other avenues, other opportunities. But essentially, you're not going to change everybody's mind. You're not going to change somebody else's personality just by showcasing all the time. So you know, there are those people out there, unfortunately, that feel threatened by that, instead of feeling that your achievement is their achievement, which is the way I look at it. Anybody that I've helped and supported, if they go on and do wonderful stuff, I take that as a personal success if I've had any part to play in it. That might be a little bit selfish on my part, but in terms of if as a leader you've given somebody the skills to flourish, surely that should be something that should be celebrated. And if you're not a leader that does that, then you've got to question whether you're actually a leader or a manager in post.
Hi, Billy. Hopefully that answers your question.
Thank you so much. That's exactly what I'm doing. I'm looking to move on. Thank you.
Cool. And also as well, I've seen some advice that people in the chat box have provided to you. Okay, so we've got 8 minutes. I'm going to try and make sure that everyone who now asks the question, brother, please be patient with me, is as succinct as possible so we can make sure that everyone gets their question answered. So I'm looking at the next person who has kindly raised their hand. Billy, if that's right, if you can put your hand down. Abigail, big shout out to Abigail, by the way, who's been doing some amazing things in MHCLG and within their network. So once again, I want to try and push and promote networks and the growth that it can help people get. So if you're not an active member of your network, please become one, because it's a really good starting point. So, sorry, Abigail, hand over to you.
Oh, thank you very much, Justin, and thank you for all you do at Civil Service Race Forum as well. I'll try and keep it brief. My question was just about how do you balance making yourself visible against dealing with like inauthenticity? Hopefully that is a word. Just based on kind of my experiences, often balancing and dealing with senior colleagues and other colleagues who I've seen progress. Often it feels like however visible I often try and make myself, and I've seen it with other ethnic minority staff, particularly ethnic minority women who often put the hard work in. It can feel like often white male colleagues specifically kind of push themselves to the forefront, can be inauthentic, kind of know how to play the game. Somebody made a really good comment that hit me in the chat about ambition over ability. So often they kind of know how to say the right things, they know how to position themselves, and often it can be on the shoulders of ethnic minority staff. So they'll position themselves at the forefront of projects and kind of get that progression that is often to the detriment of other ethnic minority staff. So sometimes it's like, how to deal with that balance where you feel like you're trying to make yourself visible, but it feels like there's a game being played inauthentically that seems to be benefiting other people. I'm not sure if I've expressed myself.
No, I think you have, and thank you for that question. I think a lot of people would have found themselves in that situation where, and that this is where actually this talk came from, those kinds of situations. What I ended up doing, so I can only talk from my personal experience, when I've been in a situation where I feel that the people that I work for, who I'm showcasing their talent through the work that I do, I don't get any reciprocation of that, is that I then make sure that people from outside the organization showcase the work that I've done for my organization. I almost love my organization into submission, in terms of I raise the bar of what I think should be achievable within my organization by making sure I highlight and spotlight what we do well, and I get people from outside the organization, so that might be other parts of the civil service, showcasing what your department's doing and the work that you're doing for your department, and showcase both at the same time, and making that link between your department and you and the work that you've done together, and getting other people from outside to do that. People have to break that bond then, and they're not likely to do that. So that's what I've ended up doing. I ended up getting championed from outside, until you can't be ignored. But I get exactly where you're coming from, you know, and it's frustrating. And I think, as I said, this is just the work that I've started doing over the last couple of months, just looking into this and thinking how this was. So this is a almost like a the starting point of this discussion, and start looking at how we deal with that, whether you're the person at the receiving end, or whether you're somebody who is in a bit more control over that situation, how you deal with these situations. So yeah, that's my personal experience, is that I've ended up bringing voices from outside in.
Okay. Thank you, that's helpful.
Cool. Thanks, Abigail. Okay, so there's a couple of more questions. So we've got less than 4 minutes. So I've 1 minute response. If not, keep it down to 1 minute response. And to the people who I'm begging you, if you're going to ask a question, do it in less than 1 minute, because if not, we're going to go over time. And I have had slap wrists for doing this. So no, that's fine. So I've got Mohammed next. No, okay, hand goes down. Deborah, you're up next.
Hi there. I will be quick. I want to go back to the point about equality and equity and our organisation's behaviour. We have seen, particularly this year, the appointment of people without due process. When we have challenged that with our organisations, hands have gone up and said, "Oh, we're really sorry. Let's raise the bar again and do that properly and put everybody else through a proper exercise," by which time the people that would have got through have got through, and you find yourself with this bigger wall than you had in the first place. So how do we hold our organisations to account on that?
Justin, would you have more of an idea about the internal politics and the policies that are in place?
So yes, I mean, I can only speak for my home department, for the Department for Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy, which Deborah is hopefully still a member of the department. So happy to have an offline conversation with you, Deborah, just for the sake of time.
I'm not, but we'll find each other.
Hello.
Oh, sorry, I missed that, Deborah.
So I'm no longer there, but we will find each other, Justin.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
And,
yeah.
And the only reason why I say that is because I think that's actually a process failure, and that's something that I know from a small political point of view, in terms of how you negate those situations. But if that situation happened to me, I would literally raise that at the highest possible level that I could do, and I'd make sure that I had other voices around with me. So that's just a collective voicing of those concerns in the right forum that you might have to be able to do that. And I wouldn't leave it until a performance review and raise it at some other point. I would make it intentional, and I would make it specific, and I'd make sure that I had enough allies with me to have that discussion at the same time. So the power of many is always better, I think, especially if they're aligned with what you're saying.
Excellent. All right, I'm going to quickly go back to Mohammed, who hopefully, there you go.
Yes, so hi, this is Nima Mohammed.
Sorry.
No problem, Justin. Thanks so much, both of you, for the talk. A quick one for me is a slight barrier to raising recognitions and achievements. So when I've been neglected opportunity in my experience, then I raise it at some point. What I find is I'm given a test. Okay, you want to do this now, you can do it. And it's almost setting you up for failure. So you're given this like limelight big project or piece of work, but you may not be able to deliver against it because you've had none of the opportunities, training, experience, input from your managers, from your colleagues to be able to do that. And then you might fail at that big level project, and then it almost proves them right.
No, and again, that's more common than you think, because one, if you accept it, you're accepting there's a high chance of failure. But if you see that as an outcome and you decide not to accept it, then you're not seen as ambitious. So it's you literally are put between a hard place and a very hard place in that situation. When I've been in that situation, what I've had to do, and I'm not saying I advise you do this, is that I've taken the challenge, but I've dropped a lot of other balls to make sure that that one thing that they've said, here, do this, I've made sure that I've done that, and I pull in as many people as I can that can support me in doing it. And that's off the record, not like building a team to do a project. This is the people that I've called on that I thought, okay, I haven't got the expertise perhaps at the level that I need to accomplish this. Who do I know that can help me with that? And I literally, I mean, I talk to people all the time. That's basically what I do, and that's where most of my contacts and my support structure is that I literally will talk to anybody, because I think everybody has value, and I don't know at that time whether that's a value that I need or not, but I do know that either I support them or they support me at some point, and that's the way that I work. So I wouldn't say I can advise this, but I took on a project and I dropped every other ball and I got into trouble, but it all came back round okay in the end. So it's a case of being brave enough to do that.
Yeah, thank you.
Because if that's what your success is going to be gauged by, and not by the other things, let them gauge you on that thing.
Sure, thank you.
Oh, good. He's smiling, so hopefully that was a good response. So look, apologies once again. This is what I mean about, brother, I think we may have to do a session 3. There just never seems enough time to answer everyone's questions, but I definitely believe, and as I said, for me, how you speak and the points that you raise, and, you know, definitely help people think in a different way. So as I said, I realize now I'm a victim of micro neglect, and I need to do something about that so I can also as well help others. So I just want to quickly say, if that's all right, before I let everyone go, if you can just do 2 things. One, the first thing is we are also as well organizing an event on Thursday to encourage people to do some more external outreach work, which is something that I believe as civil servants we should be doing. Not only one, to actually explain what we do as civil servants to the society that we serve, but also as well too that we're actually giving back to our communities. So we will be organizing a session on how all of us can help with the school system, and you will see the link in a minute, brother, by becoming school governors, because organizations such as BayMed, people such as ARV are going out and helping schools. And I think if you have an hour, if you have 2 hours spare, how you can help through helping the school with their governance is also a great way of giving back to the community, but also as well giving back in a way that actually some people just wouldn't know about. So if anyone's interested, as I said, we've put it in the newsletter. I've also as well put it on our LinkedIn page. Yes, we're on LinkedIn. Please feel free to drop some comments about how you enjoyed the session today. And also as well, I'm happy to tweet it, but it'd be really good if you can turn up. And then finally, the second thing is, please can you come off mute and just say we would like another session.
We would love another session.
We would love another
session.
We would love
more sessions. So, brother, that's your cheerleaders. See, that's your cheerleaders right there. So we'll speak.
I am truly blessed. I really am.
I was a bit concerned there, Justin. I thought you were going to get us to sing. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if you want to hear my singing voice.
That's session 3.
Ready to, yeah. Session 3, we'll sing together.
Yeah.
But listen, honestly, I'm going to say another two things. Sorry. See, I'm getting my charades hands ready. To all of you who are listening, I'm going to keep saying it. Civil Service Race Forum are here for you. So please get in contact with us if there's things that we can do that's going to help you individually with your career aspirations. It's going to help you individually with some things that actually maybe you're thinking about what you need to do next or how you're feeling. We're here for you. We are nothing without you, the people who listen to us. The second thing I want to say, brother, listen, the public has spoken. We need to get you back again. And I just want to say thank you very much, because once again, within that hour, there's so many conversations happening in various different ways, but it's conversations that you've helped instigate by your slides, by your personality, and your humbling presence. So I just personally want to say thank you.
No, thank you. No, really blessed.
Thank you.
Thank you, Abby, and thank you, Justin, for arranging. Well done.
No, listen, for everyone, please continue to stay safe. I know they've said they've got a vaccine, but we may not be high on the priority list at the moment. So continue to do your safety, social distancing, wear your mask, wash your hands, but stay safe, because there's more to come in 2021. All right? Take care, everyone.
Yeah.
Take care.
Right.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
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 Brother, what's the rest of your day looking like?
I've got a podcast that I'm doing next.
Yep.
And then I've got wrapping up. Did I tell you what's happening at work?
Yeah, but we'll talk about that offline.
No, that's fine.
With regards
I'm just wrapping up at the moment. Hey?
Yeah. With regards to the podcast, if you want us to promote that as well, just let us know.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I'm doing one on somebody else's, so I don't know how they're going to do all of that. So
no worries. But if there's any way we can help you, just let us know.
No, I appreciate that. No, I really appreciate it. I appreciate all the support online as well. I really appreciate that. You're far too kind online.
It's the least I can do. All right, listen, I'm gonna stop this now, and then we'll catch up offline if that's all right. And then, as we said, looks like we'll be doing another session or something.
Looks that way, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And I'll do Microsoft Teams next time.
Yeah, we'll get you.
I'm going to Teams. I'm going to Teams now.
Yay! It's about time. It'll be a lot more easier. Okay.
Tell me about it.
All right, Mum. Take care of yourself. Yeah.
Okay.
All the best. Bye.
Bye.